Hey everybody, welcome to the Mother Figures podcast. I'm Caitlin Darkangelo, founder and co-owner of Figure, Midwestern wife, and girl mom. I'm a dual certified pregnancy and postpartum trainer, majored in exercise science from the University of Michigan, earned my master in management degree from Duke University, and have been coaching in the fitness industry for over a decade. This podcast dives into all things pregnancy and postpartum fitness, especially in how to navigate strength and intensity training in these seasons. Whether you're in it yourself, trying to get pregnant, or coaching this population, you're in the right place. I'm excited to share personal experiences, client stories, guest interviews, and evidence-based strategies to give you the guidance, insights, and clarity needed to navigate these seasons with confidence. And with that, let's get rolling. Hello, and welcome back to the Mother Figures podcast. Today's episode is going to be about what I like to call the testing phase of postpartum recovery. And if you are starting recovery from, week 1 of giving birth, this would be about the week 6 through 12 mark or so. And I'm going to go into all of the guidelines and stuff here. But in general, we're talking about weeks 6 through 12 after having a baby. So weeks 0 through 6, I like to think of as the foundational weeks. So we are resting, we are recovering, we are connecting to our body again. We are letting our body heal from an internal perspective. Our tissues physically are healing. We're just getting our body back to baseline. Like when you give birth, your body kind of goes like and dips below your normal baseline. And then weeks 0 through 6 is generally when we're trying to just get ourselves back up to like ground level so that we can build up from there. Again, this is for those who are starting recovery from the first week or two after giving birth. And there's a huge range of comfortability and like when a mom specifically wants to start the recovery themselves. So again, today's podcast is for those who are kind of starting off right off the bat. However, there is a huge gap between healing from a foundational perspective from week 0 to 6 and then getting back into like your max lifts and your normal intensity of your workouts and doing all the variety of movements that you want to do. So there's like this huge bridge to still cross before going from like just like, oh, I can connect to my pelvic floor with a Kegel, going from that to like, oh, I can lift like my 300-pound deadlift or whatever it is that you want to get back to. So we generally right now in society, I feel like go from super postpartum focus in those first 6 weeks to like assuming that you're not postpartum at all. But our bodies need this like progression time to go through it and actually build back into it instead of just jumping back into things. And so that's where this like testing phase of week 6 to 12 comes in. And it's just, this is my just terminology. It's not actually called the testing phase, but I like to think of it like that. And so I'm actually currently in that phase myself. I am 9 weeks postpartum right now, almost 10. And so it's kind of fun from my own perspective right now. So I can kind of give you the down low from a personal perspective on this as well. So again, even if you're like not starting fresh from having a baby, let's say you're like 6 months down the road and you are just now starting your return to fitness, there still needs to be that foundational phase from like the 0 to 6 weeks, but it might not have to take 6 weeks since you're kind of out of that early tissue healing phase. So maybe that, building that foundation only takes like a week or two. But even if you take that first week or if you take your first 2 weeks or so, if you're 6 months postpartum, for instance, there still needs to be this testing phase following afterwards. There shouldn't just be like, oh, because you're 6 months postpartum, now you can just jump back into anything. Like this testing phase kind of applies to you no matter if you're at the early beginning stages of postpartum recovery or if you're months or years down the road. This testing phase is super crucial to your overall healing to make sure that you can get back to whatever it is that you love to do without all the symptoms and pains and just feeling really confident in your body and what it is able to do. And this testing phase is also something that I include personally in my 6-week postpartum class. So that's where I have moms come in to my gym and I train them over the course of 6 weeks. So we start with the foundational stuff. And then a lot of it is this testing phase, trying to get them up to par. And then by the time that they are out of the 6-week class, they kind of have the foundations for fitness built. It is also exactly how my Figure Postpartum app subscription is built. So weeks 0 through 6 are building that foundation. And then weeks 6 through 12 are this testing phase. And then in the app program itself, weeks 13 through 52 is a full progressive overload to get back to all barbell and intensities. So that is for those who want to do that kind of activity. But even if lifting and high intensity is not your thing, everyone should be doing the stuff that I program from week 0 to 12, because it is the foundation for any activity that it is that you want to get back to. So again, building that foundation first. We are kind of past that. We're not talking about that in today's podcast, but I really want to make sure that we should be building a foundation before this testing phase. And then weeks 6 through 12, or about a 5 to 6 week period, should be about testing different things that I'll go into now to get yourself back to this fitness foundation that then you can go into any activity it is that you love to do afterwards. So what is the testing phase? We know that it's about 6 to 12 weeks postpartum or so. Again, there is no exact guidelines for this. This is just in general. Some moms might take longer or less, regardless. But this testing phase is when we are building into weights progressively, when we are adding in different movement varieties, when we are doing impact prep or impact drills prior to getting into high impact and running. We are adding in different workout structures, different time domains, things like that. We're just overall trying to increase demand on our body in different ways and implement different exercise structures, or just getting back into more structured exercise. So those early days, weeks 0 through 6, again, these are general time frames, but I'm just going to keep saying the same things. It's kind of unstructured in a way where we're just getting our body back into a routine of fitness. We're trying to build that foundation, trying to connect with our body. This is now when we're getting into more structured exercise, adding demand, and just seeing how our body adjusts to it. So I'm going to go into 5 different of those things. So weights, variety, impact, workout structures, and increased demand, in terms of what those mean in this testing phase. So number 1, weights and resistance. So going from the foundational period where we're doing, body squats, or we're sitting into a chair and standing up, or we're hinging forward with intention, we're now getting into banded work or light dumbbells, and then progressively overloading the weight with those foundational movement patterns. So things like a squat, a deadlift, presses, rows, lunges, very traditional standard movement patterns. We are adding light weight and then building up over time. I do not care if you can squat a 200-pound barbell. You are going to start with a banded squat, and then you are going to start with a 5-pound goblet squat, and then you're going to do a set of 10s on your shoulders for dumbbell front squats. And we're progressively overloading the weight from the very, very beginning, and we're going up from there, because we don't know if our body in this new postpartum world is going to have a sticking spot where that weight might feel like it might start to spark symptoms. Again, this is why it is called the testing phase, because we're literally testing our way up back into our full capacity. So maybe before you could squat 200 pounds, but maybe now your knee or your hip is kind of thrown off for whatever reasons, from birth or from pregnancy related stuff. And we need to work through that. So we need to start low, add slightly higher weights in within the week, within the months. I don't love adding a ton of weight on in just one workout session, because we don't know how our body is going to react or feel the next day, because feeling symptoms during is one thing, but we also have to watch for symptoms about 24 to 48 hours afterwards. It's kind of like that delayed onset muscle soreness. Your body and your pelvic floor too can feel that same sensation. So let's say Monday's workout has squats, and you do a 10-pound dumbbell and it feels really solid, really easy. I wouldn't necessarily be overloading and trying to increase weight in that first session of adding weight. I'm going to wait till the next day, see how my body feels, and then maybe adding weight later on in the week or the next week. So we can get this really progressive overload of weight, so we can feel how our body reacts, not just during, but after. So that's number 1, is weights. Number 2, we are testing variety. So we have already built up our traditional movement patterns, the stuff that our body is pretty used to, that we see in our daily functional patterns. However, we need to add variety so we can kind of bulletproof our body from 360 degrees, like just making sure no matter what direction or change of motion our body goes into, our body can handle it and can adjust with it. And so think of variety as building onto the foundational movement patterns. So think like Cossack squats or walking lunges, something that's a little bit more dynamic than your, standard split squat. Think suitcase deadlifts where one weight is on one side versus, double weight. Think push press instead of strict presses, step ups, renegade rows, really anything that takes the traditional movement pattern and adds in an angle or a level of difficulty. Again, because we want to just test our body in all ranges of motion, in all, movement patterns. This helps us not only in the lifting world, but also when we get back into more athletic events. Maybe you're a volleyball player, or maybe you like to do yoga and Pilates and you're doing all different kind of movements there. There's a lot of we need variety. We don't just work in isolation forward to backwards or side to side. We want to make sure everything is working soundly from all angles. So the second piece of testing, or this testing phase, is just including a bunch of different variety of movement patterns and different movement themselves. Number 3, in terms of what we're testing, is impact. So this is our impact time frame. We are trying to build up our body and our pelvic floor's capacity before getting into running and jumping. So that's something that's different than with postpartum versus normal, fitness, is we have to do a lot of the background work before actually going into something. So for running, for example, if a non-postpartum person wanted to just get better at running, they would go out and start running. That's how you get better at running. But when it comes to postpartum, there is an internal healing that comes before being able to run that we need to work on. So instead of running in order to get better at running, we need to lay the foundation of impact drills and joint absorption and all this stuff that we could have gotten thrown off from pregnancy or birth before we get into running. And then we have the foundation to be able to do so. So some of my favorite impact drills include things like heel slams, squat reaches, lateral hops, plate hops, skaters, single leg strength and balance related movements. Anything that is getting your body prepared for leaving the ground and also coming back and landing on the ground. Again, this is helping build pelvic floor capacity. Our pelvic floor is the base foundation of our core and stability system. And so if our pelvic floor is not functioning well, this is an area that we see a lot of symptoms, especially things like incontinence and prolapse or heaviness related symptoms. So we want to build the pelvic floor's capacity and functionality before straight up just jumping and running, because there's a big difference between being able to do a Kegel on a PT's bed. Okay, cool, we can do a Kegel, but can that pelvic floor absorb and produce force when we're running? There's a big difference between those two things. So we need to do this middle ground work of impact drills to make sure that we are progressively overloading the pelvic floor before we get into more higher impact and more dynamic work. Number 4 is workout structures. So we are testing a bunch of different workout structures during this time frame. Think kind of like the definition of CrossFit in a sense, like time domains, variety of intervals, work rest times we're adjusting and trying to vary, things like AMRAPs at the as many rounds as possible, EMOMs every minute on the minute, work rest intervals, supersets. We're just combining different movement types and different time domains instead of working on things in isolation. So in the first 6 weeks, we do a lot of isolation work. So we are just isolating a movement pattern or isolating a specific thing and seeing how that feels. In this testing phase, we want to go beyond that. So we already know that we can do 10 body squats without symptoms, but can you do those same 10 body squats, but paired with 10 deadlifts and, a 10-second bike in a 20-minute AMRAP? That's a different stimulus to the body. So how does the pelvic floor hold up? How does your endurance capacity hold up? How does your core feel when we're adding different, things to it? So there's a workout structure component that we are varying and testing from anywhere from like a 4-minute Tabata all the way up to a 30-minute EMOM. There's a lot of different ways we can test our body's capacity with different workout structures. This is going to depend a lot on what type of activity or type of exercise you personally like to do. I'm more in the functional fitness, CrossFit, high roxy space. So these are kind of just ways that I would traditionally overload a workout structure or vary it or test clients with different time domains and different structures. But that's something that we want to be testing during this time frame. Maybe your body can hold up for the first 5 minutes of an AMRAP, but past 5 minutes, we're starting to feel symptoms. That's something that we are testing for. And then number 5 is just increasing the demand in general. So obviously we think of demand in terms of like weight and impact and intensity, but we can also think about it as increasing the number of days per week that you're training, or decreasing rest between workouts. So maybe we're working 2 days back to back and then taking a rest day. How does our whole body hold up while we're doing that? How are we recovering? Is our body being able to get back to normal? Or what our normal capacity is before pregnancy, or what your goal is to get back to, testing that kind of stuff out. We're testing decreasing rest time. We're testing the duration of our workout. Maybe we were doing 20-minute workouts during our foundational period. Can we do a 30-minute workout? Can we get to 60 minutes? How is that feeling on our body? Let's just test it out. That's kind of what this phase is. So in terms of this testing phase, I always program. So those were the 5 things. I'll repeat them. They are: number 1, weights and resistance; number 2, variety; number 3, impact prep; number 4, different workout structures; and number 5, increased demand. So those are the 5 key core pieces that we are testing and changing up during this time period. So in terms of variety throughout this testing period, I always program in a lot of the foundational movements still, things like squats, deadlifts, because those are your traditional movement patterns. But I am going to I never really program in the same sets and reps for those movements. I always include different variations, different time domains, different workout structures, and different it's not always like a 5x5 or a 10x3 or whatever it is. I'm always adjusting that because we are trying to see if our body can hold up under a bunch of different ways to do that. So within my figure postpartum program, for instance, you will never see the same sets and reps for that movement within the 6 to 12 week phase, because there's so much that we're trying to test that I want to see if there's a weak spot. Maybe the higher reps is your harder piece when you go lower weight, or maybe it's the heavier weight with the less reps. There's a lot of different things that could cause challenge, and I want to find what that challenge is. We need our body to be tested in lots of ways during this time, and then once it is all good, once we can, everything's solid, then we can kind of get into this progressive overload phase, which is what you see in my postpartum program from weeks 13 to 52. That's when everything is a little bit more structured, and month 1 is 12 sets or 12 reps, 4 sets, and kind of goes more structured from there. But this is kind of one reason where I don't totally love traditional strength training during this testing phase. In other words, doing the same movements for 6 to 8 weeks to get stronger. That has great application in the normal fitness world. But when it comes to this early phase of strength training and getting back into functional fitness or getting back into fitness in general, after having a baby, there is so much that the body has to build back to. And this is such an acute healing window that we want to try to take advantage of it as best we can and test a bunch of different, again, all those 5 things, test different things, just increasing the demand in general, that if we were to just select a few movement patterns for a few muscle groups, we might be missing out on some really key healing component or timeframes. And then we might not be getting back into as much impact and kind of readiness for a bunch of other different activities. And it's also just from like a lifestyle, and this is all personal opinion too, depends what type of fitness you're in. This is just what I have seen for myself and for all my clients, that this works really well to just do a different workout every day, a different type of movement every day, different workout structures every day, because we're just trying to like get the body reacclimated back to like everything before we kind of narrow ourselves back down into what it is that we love to do. I also find that from a lifestyle perspective too, though, as like a newborn mom, routine around fitness can be really challenging. And for those who like to do the traditional like body part splits, like leg day, upper body day, full body day, if you miss one of those days in a week, it's a lot harder to recoup from versus having like 3 full body, well-rounded days that you can kind of adjust better. And then also like hammering out one body part. Let's say like Monday is like leg day or whatever. If you hammer out one body part and then you get so sore the next day that we start to feel a lot of symptoms, that is challenging. So I like to have all of my workouts be pretty full body, pretty well rounded, so our body can work as one whole system, especially from a core strength and core function and core healing component. All of my workouts are pretty well-rounded full body versus like body part splits, just from, again, taking advantage of that full healing potential and not missing a body part one week and not being overly sore in that one area that can lead to different symptoms and just kind of take you out of the flow in general. Again, these are all just my personal insights. No, by no means does that mean that you can't do body part splits if that's your thing, but just some things to think about in there. And then another piece to consider is all the other stuff outside of the gym. So we still need to be considering your sleep, your hydration, your nutrition, breastfeeding, maternity leave considerations generally happens in this week 6 to 12 component or a time frame. Support at home, maybe your spouse goes back to work during this time frame. As your body heals and you be able to hit harder workouts, this stuff all becomes way more important. Obviously, it's super important in the early phases as we're trying to really take advantage of that acute healing, tissue healing time frame. But as you get back into your normal routine and like you have a newborn at home, and you're hitting harder workouts, like your body is under more stress now. So we need to be really prioritizing and trying to hit as good of nutrition, sleep, hydration, all the stuff, to help you in your return to this higher impact, higher demand, higher weighted activities. And then another piece I wanted to really focus on was that we still need to be prioritizing mobility even more so now, because as we get more load on our body, more variety, more angles, we need to make sure that we are allowing our body to get as best of a recovery as possible. So that comes down to mobility, stretching, warm-ups. Breath work too is going to be really important. In the early days, it's a lot of isolated breath work, but now breath work is being integrated into the movements themselves, into the workouts themselves. So now we are using breath work in a functional way versus in an isolated way. And so, making sure that we're still focusing or like having a mental awareness of our breath, obviously, and then the mobility, stretches, warm-ups, those things are all going to help this progression into heavier lifts and more intense lifts much smoother. And in terms of like why I like to call it the testing phase, like those were all like what we do during the testing phase. But I think it comes down to more of like a mental component. So it kind of helps your brain realize that this is not you just doing your normal workouts. This is not like, oh, an AMRAP is scheduled, so I'm going to hit it as hard as I can. And then if your body like feels totally out of whack, then you get super frustrated. Like during this time frame, you probably won't be able to lift your normal weights yet. You probably won't be able to hit the same intensities yet. And that is a sucky feeling if you're expecting if you're expecting to come out of your workout feeling like you used to. It's just probably not the reality at this point in time yet. Just because you're not pregnant anymore doesn't mean you're back to your not pregnant fitness automatically. And so calling it a testing phase kind of helps you mentally tune into and make like a game or an experiment out of it. Like, ooh, let's like test this and see how my body feels. Let's adjust, or let's see where you're at. Let's adjust, components, intensity, weights, resistance, whatever it is, to meet your body where it's at. And then let's like make it a game to see if we can make it to the next level per se, while still staying in tune with all of the symptoms. So what movements or durations or intensities or variations spark symptoms? What feels really good? What feels super challenging or different than it did pre-pregnancy? Because your postpartum body is not your pre-pregnant body, and it's not your pregnancy body. So it's this whole new body that you're trying to adjust to and get used to. So we're just constantly testing and adapting. We want to find your symptom threshold. I'm actually wanting to see what your symptoms are. I want to find your symptoms. I want you to have symptoms. So we can see what that level is. And so we can kind of then pull back, work underneath that threshold, and then push back and test again that same thing that caused symptoms. And let's see if like we did enough good work to then push further into that to make you better and, progressively overload from that situation. So thinking of it as a test, I think helps us like not expect ourselves to just like come out of a workout feeling like totally like, oh, I crushed it, or like we're not going into workout to have the best sweat or to get any PRs right now. Like we are literally just testing our body, our capability. We're testing our preparation, our foundation. And we want to we know that we're not at our full capacity yet, but we're testing the body to like kind of pull out any issues that may come about. And I think that creates a really healthy mindset instead of a really frustrating mindset around this time period, when we kind of expect or want ourselves to feel like our normal self in the gym, but we're not quite there yet. But we can at least, by calling it like a testing phase, we can be like, ooh, like let's see what we got today. And then like get really excited when you go up 5 pounds instead of being frustrated that you're still 20 pounds less than, what you think you should be doing. So I think mentally, I really like this like testing phase, like calling it a testing phase, because it just puts a different perspective on the outcome of your workout or what the goal of your workout is. So then we can have a more exciting time instead of a more frustrating time, because it can be really hard, especially if you have high levels of fitness prior to, you want to get back to that. Like that is part of just who you are. So it can be a really difficult time, but just a way to make it fun, a way to make it challenging, and just like also make you feel like yourself in the gym during a time when your body might not be performing like your normal, but we are getting back to your normal. And that's a super good feeling. So that is the testing phase of postpartum recovery. Again, I keep saying 6 to 12 weeks. That's for those who start at the very beginning, but this can also apply to anyone at any point in their return to fitness, whether it be a few months or a few years down the road. We still want to have this time period of testing all of these different things: weights, variety, impact, workout structures, and increasing demand in general, to help us build back to our traditional or desired level of fitness. Because we all know how much fitness can impact our lives and how much we love it. And so this is just a piece of that. So with that, I will see you guys on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Mother Figures podcast. If these episodes help or resonate with you in any way, it would be so helpful to the show if you could leave a review so we can get this into more moms' hands. And if you're looking for even more guidance and direction when it comes to pregnancy and postpartum fitness, I got you covered. My Mother Figures app subscription includes my Figure Pregnancy and Figure Postpartum workout programs, in addition to our general fitness programs. You'll get the day-by-day workouts you need to help you feel strong, pain-free, and labor-ready during pregnancy, and also the recovery, strength, and progressions you'll need to get back to the activities you love, full of strength and without symptoms after baby arrives. If you're local to the Brighton, Michigan area, I also host daily women's functional fitness classes, a 6-week postpartum return to fitness course, and pregnancy and postpartum consultation sessions. For those who are providers, coaches, or practitioners in the space, I hold a live Mother Figures certification course that equips you with the knowledge, tools, and confidence to train and work with this population. For information on all of these services and programs, make sure to check out fitisgettingreal.com/moms or head to the show notes for the direct link. I'm so thankful that you tuned in today's episode, and I will catch you next time.